Hello and welcome to another one of ADemonicWizard on Twitch, ADemonicShadow for literally everything else to bring you another review. So initially what I'm going to be doing is this is going to be a spoiler-free review. The only thing that I'm going to spoil is that this game has 3 endings, which I'll briefly talk about, because we all totally cared about the story of Dark Souls. But I'm going to be breaking up my reviews that normally I would do a review of the game, followed by a trophy review of the game. And they'll next be in one video due to some of these games having a lot of not necessarily a lot of trophies, but some that take quite a while to get, and these lengthy ones. I'm going to be splitting them up into videos, so I'll be doing a review once I beat the game, and then a trophy review once I get close to, or once I get the platinum for the trophies of the game, just so I can actually dish out those videos a lot quicker. So, once again, this is the review of Dark Souls 3. Unfortunately, the final installment of Dark Souls, so we're not necessarily sure what they're going to be working on next, which is going to be, I mean, they say that they're working on another game, but it's still not confirmed if they're still going to, well, it's not even confirmed they're going to be making Bloodborne 2, but it's possible they can be making Bloodborne 2 and another game. Or just the other game. So, once again, the story of Dark Souls, in case for some other reason you do not know, it's pretty much a cycle that's going on from both games, Dark Souls 1 and 2, with rekindling the fire or letting it go to darkness. Another, like, pretty much Dark Souls 1 and 2's endings and choices you pick don't really matter because it just continues on the cycle. Dark Souls 3 is supposedly going to break the cycle. Out of the 2 of the 3 endings, 2 of them is naturally just rehashing the cycle again. The 3rd ending, which I'm working on myself to see, and you know, trying to find out how they actually break the cycle is going to be one thing. I'll try to explain it when I can after I beat myself. So gameplay wise, the game itself is very the same as Dark Souls 1 and 2. You know, you have your standard, you know, rolling, dodging. The combat's actually a little bit more fast-paced, taking notes from their Bloodborne, which I actually do appreciate. I actually do appreciate this gameplay a lot better. If anything, this is probably my favorite gameplay-wise when it comes to other Dark Souls. Bloodborne was a little bit too fast, and necessarily just lack of magic, and Dark Souls 1 and 2 were necessarily too slow. I actually do appreciate and do cherish this form of combat. Now, another thing that they did, well, once again, the graphics of this game is spectacular. I've only found like 1 or 2 glitches of textures or something like that. I can actually show you one right now because I know where it's at. But outside that, this game is visually good. It's very pretty. I still think Bloodborne is graphically better, but Dark Souls 3 does come slightly behind. I'm sure this game looks spectacular on PC, but this game is graphically pretty. Pretty. So, what are the things that they did change or necessarily add? See, there's their textures right there. One of the things they did add and change outside the faster gameplay is that each weapon has its own skill. So this is another thing added here, is this menu here. So there's your quick select from your items and your your spells, and then you have these, which are, you know, once again, items you'll use a lot but you necessarily won't use in combat. But as you can see here, each weapon has its own skill. The dagger has quick step. You know, you have the parrying dagger, which is dagger parrying. You know, they have certain stances and stuff like that. So when you have your weapon, and excuse me, you can equip it or two-hand it, and when you two-hand it, you'll have access to your stance or special skill or whatever. So you have your light and your heavy, which you can charge. Then you have your blocking, and then if you hit your L2, which will put you in your stance. Now, each weapon, once again, has a few... these do require stamina and magic, which was another thing they added, was the magic bar, which you can, of course, replenish with the Alice Flask. Then, each one has... each stance has 2 different forms. When you're in, like, a stance, like, quick step with the dagger is just quick stepping, but this is light, there's an uppercut, and then heavy, which shoots a beam of light. Let's see. Some stances have a charge. This is its stance. Of course, you have its standard light, and then heavy. Something to add with the bow is that when you shoot with the light, it shoots your first arrow. If you shoot the heavy, it shoots your other arrows, so you don't have to necessarily switch between them, and you can do it on the fly, which is pretty cool. Of course, you have your aiming instead of blocking, and then its stance is quick arrow. Allows you to shoot arrows a lot faster. Of course, this does change from that. Bows and even crossbows have their own stance. One of the things I did like about this game, what it changes, is, for one, there's no dual wielding. I mean, yeah, you can dual wield, but there are weapons that are specifically set for dual wielding. So here's, once again, a weapon, but if I dual wield, I'll have 2 swords, and it has its own move set. Beautiful stance. And then, of course, there's boss weapons in the game, like this one, which I'm not able to fully equip. Don't have the stats for it. But on top of that, once I hold the weapon, instead of two-handing the sword, you pull out this little dagger, which the stance is a parry. Its skill is a parry, sorry. And then if you necessarily do the blocking, which you can't do with this weapon, you have this beautiful animation. I want to make a character just weapon. It's beautiful. All day. And then there's some that do buffs on you. There's this one that you a tackle attack. You can do 2 types of things afterwards. And then axe gives you a buff. Now this is not like the other things they did. At least they took which they brought back is that in Dark Souls 2, if you killed an enemy too much, it would eventually disappear. That's not the case in Dark Souls 3. You can't. Well, it's good for farming. They both have their ups and downs. You're able to farm these on 2 enemies. Don't have to worry about them disappearing. But at the same time, if you're having too much trouble get by something, eventually they won't disappear. Another thing that they changed in this game is that you don't necessarily die. There's no hollowing or hollow version. Like, you do hollow, which I'm not entirely sure what it actually does. I don't know if it increases the chances of being cursed or anything like that, but you can have a max hollowing of 99, which I don't really know what that means other than you look like beef jerky. But you necessarily don't die, and I believe it's linked to the story. But instead, when you kill a boss, or when you help a person in co-op, which they did reduce how many experience you get when co-oping, but you get this ember. When you, of course, beat a boss, instead of getting it, you automatically consume one, and you'll gain the strength of the flame, which boosts your HP until you die. So my HP isn't that big. It's more towards right near the magic bar. In fact, actually, I'll just die. So you can see how much I gained from the ember. and that's naturally your ember status. So all the stuff's in Dark Souls where it's like there's hollowing and alive. It's mainly just unembered and embered, and not necessarily linked to hollowing. Like, yes, you can cure your hollowing and become a human and everything like that, but then there's also the ember form. So another thing I did like is they have it like nice, bright, and green. It's a lot easier to see. Of course, this is New Game Plus in case you didn't know. So when it comes to difficulty, I think this game's a lot easier if you're a mage. Not a mage, if you're a melee character. Yes, you can be a mage. I think just generally this game is just this game is just easier if you're a melee character, especially when it comes to PvP, because my only real dislikes about this game only really come to PvP and the Covenants. The Covenants themselves, they don't really have much of a point to them other than getting like rank 10 and rank 30 for their items. There's nothing beyond that. There's no real... I mean, I guess you can have a little bit fun of them, but I guess the Covenants in Dark Souls 2 have more of a meaning. Like, there's a PvP area which you can go to, which unfortunately you don't have one in here. There's no PvP area where it's just, you know, one-on-one. It's kind of just, if you want a PvP, you just go to like a PvP area, which is just an area, you know, we all socially agree on to, you know, fight each other. Oh my god. Wrong one. And for some odd reason, everything in this game is weak to fire. Or not everything, but most of the things in this game are weak to fire. Like, I'll show you on this guy. This guy has a weakness to fire, but the other, like, the thing, like I was saying about PvP, then what I don't like is that if you're a melee focused character or mostly melee focused character, you're fine. If you're melee and use sorcery, if you're melee, if you know, mainly use melee or mainly use, you know, dexterity or anything like that, then you'll be fine. If you're a mage mainly and then use melee or bows, if you use any one of those, like sorcery, pyromancy, magic, or archery as a main, and then use melee or something else as a side, you will not really compete in melee and not melee in PvP, and it's really discouraging, considering that I am a mage character that normally I wouldn't have stats into strength, dexterity, and everything like that, which I'm wearing 2 rings to increase those in case you're wondering. But as you can see here, I have, you know, a lot of intelligence and faith, and the only reason why my intelligence and faith aren't higher is just so I can wield more weapons to bounce on when I'm playing in melee, PvPing, and give me some type of edge to fight back. And so, of course, they have, once again, sorcery, pyromancy. They also have and miracles. They technically took away hexes, but just, I mean, they're still here. They just took it away. They just renamed them, so these are hexes, but they're sorceries. And they do dark. There's pyromancy, but once again, they're dark. And then there's, once again, dark miracles are the only ones that are really named something else. These are pyromancies, but initially they're dark pyromancies, but whatever. These are actually miracles that are, you know, necessarily dark miracles instead of magic. Outside that, most of these spells are pretty unique. Most of them are pretty standard, you know, throwing a fireball, you know, firestorm. These are things you've already seen in other previous Dark Souls games, you know, soul mass, homing missiles, you know, nothing too spectacular. They did add a few new ones. They did change the names of some other ones, but other than that, nothing too spectacular. And but overall, I do like Dark Souls 3. I definitely think it's worth the price. I actually want to give props to them because the game was working from release. Oh, okay. When it's online, which can't really say about Dark Souls 2, and I don't remember about Bloodborne. Oh my gosh, this guy is ridiculous. But on New Game Plus, but I think this game, at least to me, Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne were the hardest for me. Bloodborne itself is just a hard game, and I probably want to say it's the hardest game out of them all, because I think the only reason why I find Dark Souls 1 to be hard, just because it was one of the first Dark Souls games that most people played, because a lot of people played Demon Souls. Even though I did, I still found Demon Souls a lot easier, but I played Demon Souls after Bloodborne. I mean, after Dark Souls 1. I could have sworn this guy was weak to fire, but whatever. Another one of the things they did change, which is just weird, is that in New Game, when you beat the game, you beat the game, you do whatever, it's the ending, spectacular, and then you move on to New Game Plus. For some odd reason, they changed New Game Plus, because in Dark Souls 2, they would add new enemies. Enemies will have more movesets, and stuff like that. In Dark Souls 3, you're able to get second version of ring, so you can get a ring that's like, instead of +1, and I mean, instead of just a standard ring, it'll be +1, and then you can get like +2s and stuff like that. But outside that, they didn't really add any real difficulty to New Game Plus in Dark Souls 3, other than, yes, the enemies do a lot more damage. Yes, I mean, not a lot more damage, they just do a little bit more damage, to be honest. Only some enemies do a lot more damage. And it looks like the scaling has been a little bit reduced to make it easier. But there's no new enemies, or new placements. There's no new invaders or anything like that, which is really discouraging. So you're pretty much just playing the same experience. Like in Dark Souls 1, bosses will have new moves and new attacks that they wouldn't do in your first playthrough of the game. But in Dark Souls 2, they'll of course add 1 or 2 moves, depending on what boss and everything like that. Which, once again, is just discouraging. Here you go. Another thing, comparing once again the Dark Souls franchise against each other, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls, I don't know, I want to say Dark Souls 3 is on compared with Dark Souls 2 when it comes to locations. Dark Souls 1 had more of a vast location, which I appreciate. Even Dark Souls 2 with DLC and everything like that. Dark Souls 3 is kind of lacking on that. I mean, it's still good, still very location, still pretty nice once again. And I think the only reason why, one of the things I did like about Dark Souls 3 that they can't really do in the other Dark Souls game is that it's all literally one world. So that church right there and that castle are places that I can go to. These, it's once again one big linked world. So I can see other places from, once again, other places. Like, that's the castle you start from. That church right there is a boss that's underneath it. Actually, let me switch the bow. So that's a castle. There's a church there where there's the boss. There's a boss in that building, and then that's the castle you start from. And then you can once again see other places, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was really cool and something, and I probably spent more time appreciating than probably other people. Of course, in case you didn't know, they took out the mechanics of making your own bonfires. They probably couldn't balance it out. That's nothing too big. But that's pretty much it, to be honest. Dark Souls 3, once again, I highly recommend it. Especially if you're a Dark Souls fan, especially if you're new to Dark Souls, I highly recommend giving it a try and playing the game. It's definitely once again a worthy game, especially when you beat bosses. Of course, it's not for everyone, but definitely worth getting. Definitely worth $60. Definitely can't wait till it's DLC. But as soon as this wall of shadows come down. Oh, why? Uh-oh. So here you can see once again that's the castle you start from. I think you're able to see something else from here, but whatever. I think not. But once again, that was my really long review of Dark Souls. I once again do want to appreciate for watching. If you liked the video, you know, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll definitely once again do that trophy review as soon as I get all the trophies or get near it. But other than that, until the next video, ADemonic out.